I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle, and from the opposite benches.
Now, we all know Keir Starmer enjoys trying to shout down those who challenge him. But what happens when someone finally pushes back with force? Usually, Labour reacts like spoiled children caught red-handed. But this time, Starmer picked the wrong target. Reform UK's Lee Anderson stood up not just to ask a question, but to dismantle Starmer right there in Parliament. What unfolded wasn't just an exchange. It was a demolition job. Anderson's words hit so hard that Starmer was left red-faced, fumbling, and utterly lost for words. He tried to recover, but by then the damage was irreversible. So, what exactly did Anderson say that rattled Starmer to his core? In today's video, we're breaking down one of the most humiliating moments in recent PMQs, when a single, simple question shredded Labour's carefully packaged green agenda and exposed just how fragile it really is.
I come to this chamber, Mr. Speaker, every week to ask sensible questions, and I expect sensible answers. But all I get is glazed expressions and waffle, and from the opposite benches. So Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister a very simple question on behalf of all the net zero sceptics. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the Earth's temperature by? Simple question.
That's it. A plain question. A yes or no figure would have done. But instead of answering, Starmer dodged. And not because he didn't understand, it's because admitting the truth would have ripped the mask off his net zero dream. Rather than presenting data, science, or even a single credible statistic, Starmer fell back on playground politics. He mocked Anderson, tried to drag Nigel Farage into the conversation, and even threw out a weak joke about Farage not being able to lead a party that fits in the back of a taxi.
Minister. Mr. Speaker, net zero is of course not easy, but it's a huge opportunity to boost our growth, our jobs and our economy. And so he knows my views on that. But you know, he complains that have better ideas if they stop fawning over Putin. And I understand the member for Clacton wants to be Prime Minister. He can't even lead a party that fits in the back of a taxi.
That was a deeply disappointing and insulting response. It offered no real solutions, only political cowardice masked by rehearsed jokes. There was no substance, no facts, and no science, just a smug smile and lazy one-liners, and behind those hollow words, people across Britain are shivering in their homes, struggling with energy bills, and disabled individuals are having their benefits slashed.
Most members of this House will be aware that the welfare system can be a nightmare to navigate and does indeed need reform. But could we have less of this rhetoric about his £5 billion package of disability benefit so-called reform being moral? There is nothing moral about cutting benefits for what may be up to 1 million people. This is not about morality. This is about the Treasury's wish to balance the country's books on the back of the most vulnerable and poor people in this society.
Anderson's point was razor sharp. If the Prime Minister cannot explain how his biggest environmental policy will actually affect the planet's temperature, then we're being sold a fantasy. Either the policy isn't what it claims to be, or the government isn't being straight with us. And either way, the public are the ones paying the price. Here's the reality. The UK accounts for just about 1% of global emissions. Even if we scrapped every car, switched off every light, shut every factory, and dragged ourselves back to the Stone Age, the effect on global temperatures by 2100 would be a rounding error, around 0.01 degrees. That's the bitter truth Starmer doesn't want you to hear.
Let's face it, I mean, I had this argument with somebody out in Baku earlier in the week. You know, we've reduced our emissions by between 42 and 50% over the last 10 to 20 years, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the climate, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the carbon emissions of the world. In fact, in every other place, it's going up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Britain is going to look quite ridiculous if our economy goes on shrinking in years to come. The Americans have been growing really quite quickly because despite Mr. Biden's best attempts, the American economy is much stronger than ours and has kept growing. And I think we can probably expect that Mr. Trump will accelerate that growth. So, they are all, what isn't it? Mississippi now is the poorest state in the US, is now wealthier
Yes.
than anywhere in the UK. I mean, it's just this is madness how far we're dropping behind. And as you say, it's making no difference to the climate at all.
This is the inconvenient truth Starmer wouldn't say out loud because it would expose the whole charade. We've spent billions, gutted industries, and slashed benefits, yet the climate has barely changed.
So, Charlotte, you've seen the pathetic response from Sir Keir Starmer. He's not here to defend himself, but it wasn't a response at all. Either he couldn't answer the question or he knew the answer and was too embarrassed to give the answer. Is net zero killing us?
I think it's the second one. I think he's too embarrassed to admit that net zero isn't working. I can't believe he's still peddling this idea that it's a boost to the economy, even as evidence points in the exact opposite direction. We're seeing job losses in factories because factories are too expensive to run. It's really affecting the working people, while people in Westminster are sneering, the Ed Miliband sneering, virtue signalling, the net zero zealots. But what it's actually doing is affecting people with jobs in factories, which is completely opposite end of the scale. I just don't think they take into account these people. And I think the fact that Kemi Badenoch this week sort of wrote it off, it says all we need to say, really, doesn't it?
Billions of pounds are being poured into this green crusade while vital support for pensioners, disabled citizens, and low-income families is being stripped away. Winter fuel payments cut. Disability benefits squeezed. Personal independence payments slashed. Is that morality? Or is it cruelty dressed up in green ribbons?
Net zero by 2050 is impossible. I don't say that with pleasure. I want a better future and a better environment for our children, but we have to get real. Anyone who has done any serious analysis knows it cannot be achieved without a significant drop in our living standards, or worse, by bankrupting us. Responsible leaders don't indulge in fictions which are going to make families poorer or mortgage their children's future. Without the rest of the world doing the same, we are making our country less safe, less secure, and less resilient.
Before we continue, are you finding this breakdown helpful? If so, give this video a thumbs up, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered updates on British politics. Now, let's dive deeper. It feels like a political con. Starmer and the Labour Party are making bold climate promises to win over activists, but they know these goals are unrealistic. And there's no real plan to achieve any of it.
Nigel Farage.
Well, it depends what those climate policies are. And at the moment, we're pursuing completely unrealistic climate policies. I mean, the Labour pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2030 will not happen, just as the Conservative pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2035 will not happen. Not only is it impossible, it's actually unaffordable. So we have to be grown up and sensible. If we get new technologies that give us cheaper energy or better ways of manufacturing things, that's great.
And when challenged on this, how does Starmer respond? With deflection and insults. Question his net zero policy, and suddenly you're a Putin sympathizer. Raise concerns about energy bills, and you're branded anti-science. This isn't debate, it's bullying dressed up as politics. Meanwhile, families across Britain can't heat their homes. Steel mills are shutting down. Workers are losing jobs. And yet, our Prime Minister stands there in Parliament making jokes about taxis. We're putting ourselves through the ringer for net zero, while countries like India are proudly increasing their coal production to 1 billion tons this year. A look at the CO2 emissions graph shows this dwarfs the Industrial Revolution. So why should Britons pay higher energy bills and sacrifice their livelihoods when our contributions are a drop in the ocean? Starmer has no clear plan. No solid numbers. No credibility. Just slogans, empty promises, and spin. Labour's net zero policy, led by Ed Miliband, comes with a jaw-dropping price tag of at least £28 billion a year. And who's footing the bill? Ordinary families, pensioners, and workers. Starmer had a golden opportunity to show true leadership in Parliament. Instead, he hid behind sarcasm, pettiness, and weak jabs at Farage. And in doing so, he revealed what kind of leader he really is: thin-skinned, evasive, and shallow. So I'll leave you with this: why is Keir Starmer so determined to prioritize impossible environmental targets over protecting vulnerable citizens right now? Shouldn't keeping pensioners warm, defending jobs, and protecting the disabled come before chasing climate fantasies that won't even dent global emissions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you believe Starmer is capable of leading Britain through this crisis? Or is he simply marching us toward a colder, poorer future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth political commentary, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of power and politics. Thanks for watching.